Hello, now we are going to look at how to safely unsheath a knife and how to safely hand over a knife. Whenever we want to use our knives for any reason, we make sure we have our first aid kit out and with us. We have our trained first aider whose training is in date and everybody knows who that first aider is. And immediately before we take out our knives, we check our blood circle is clear. The area and arm span around and behind us is completely clear of anyone. When we've done that, we can take out our knives. So when we want to take our knives out of our sheath, I'm going to stand up now to show you how we do this. We check our blood circle is clear, so we check around and behind us is completely clear of anyone. We will usually have a bungee on the top of our knife, so we remove the bungee, and then if we look at our sheaths, most of them are going to have a little ramp, a little sticky out bit on the top up here, and that's for our thumb to press against. So we put our hand to the handle of the knife and put our thumb against that ramp, and then we're going to push the knife free using our thumb. So we're not going to pull the knife out of the sheath, we're going to loosen it by pressing with our thumb. So the knife can't go flying anywhere because it's just being pressed out with the thumb. And once it's loose, because we've loosened it now in the sheath, we can take it out safely. Now the moment the knife is not in use, it immediately goes back into the sheath, and if we have a bungee, we put it on. So that's how we can take the knife out of the sheath. Bungee off, hand onto the handle, put the thumb up onto the ramp and push with the thumb to loosen the knife, take it out of the sheath. And again, always check the blood circle before we take the knife out, and the instant the knife is not in use, it immediately goes back in the sheath. So that's how we can take the knife out of the sheath when it is on our hip. If the knife is not on our hip, we can hold the sheath, but we have to be careful about the way that we do it. So we're going to take knife off now. If we have the knife not on our hip, what we can do is hold onto the knife, but we hold onto the knife lower down on the sheath, so that if the tip of the knife does anything we don't expect, if it's difficult to get out, we're not going to end up stabbing our hand. And my fingers are also out of the line of where the cutting edge is. So the cutting edge of the knife is on this side. I'm going to make sure that my fingers sit on the opposite side, so that this plastic sheath is unlikely to fail, but some sheaths are more likely to get cut through by the knife if we try to take the knife out incorrectly. So we hold the knife so that the cutting edge isn't where we are holding, so that as the knife moves, it can't cut our fingers if the sheath were to fail. So I'm holding low down on the sheath with my thumb and index finger, and now I would go through exactly the same process. Check my blood circle and I'm clear. The bungee comes off if we have it. The thumb presses the knife loose, and then we can take the knife out of the sheath. Again, the fingers are out of being in line with the cutting edge, so that should this sheath fail, it can't hurt us. And the moment the knife is not in use, it immediately goes back into the sheath. Even if it is only going away for a moment, we always put the knife immediately back into the sheath. And that's one of our norms and standard ways of doing things that keeps everybody safe. Now we're going to look at how we can hand over a knife to someone. So the standard way that we want to do this is the knife would be in its sheath. So we would have the knife in its sheath and we would hand it over in the sheath. We do not really want to hand over a knife that is unsheathed, but sometimes in practice it will happen. And what we're going to look at now is how to safely hand over an unsheathed knife. To hand over the knife when it is not in its sheath, we hold the knife normally in our fist, and then we are going to open our hand up so that it is just held, the knife is just held between our thumb and our index finger. Our lower fingers are now free. And we're going to take some of our lower fingers, any of our lower fingers, and tilt the handle of the knife up and away from us. So now we have the knife sitting between our thumb and our index finger, the rest of our fingers out of the way. And we can see that our thumb and our index finger are below the level of the handle. Then when a person comes in to receive the knife, they are going to say thank you as they take the knife. And until the person says thank you, we're not going to let the knife go. So when the person says thank you, the knife is able to slide out of the hand safely. So we have our fingers below the cutting edge. We have the cutting edge facing up where everyone is able to see it, and we have the handle of the knife facing towards the person who is going to get this knife. And again, before we let go of the knife, before we hand it over to someone, the person receiving the knife says, "Thank you." And then we're able to take the knife from them. And that is how we can hand over a knife to someone and how we can unsheath a knife. Any time that we hand a knife over to anyone, we are going to make sure that they say thank you. And unless they say thank you, we don't let go of the knife. Anytime we take a knife out of our sheath, we always check the blood circle beforehand, and immediately the knife is not in use, we instantly put it back in its sheath. And that is what we need for now.